my very best to get this job that I so crave.
What did you guys like better? Do you like that one better? Or did you like the Michelob Ultra Tuscan Orange Grapefruit better?
I like that one better.
The one that just played?
The one that just played.
Ooh, Mark? I
don't feel strongly either way, honestly. But
Mark is muted and he has a stick in his mouth. Welcome to Fanzone! We're here for another debate in round 2 of the tournament, the Fanzone debate tournament. Are
they debating TED clips? Is that what they're doing?
What's that?
Are they debating the TED clips?
TED was debated once, and I lost a title. This is match number 1 of round number 2 of the tournament. Very much looking forward to it. We got Rue Moses going up against Caleb Boatman. Very close seeding-wise. Rue is the number 4 seed. Boatman's the number 5 seed. So they come in really close in the tournament. And I'm looking forward to this because as someone who does Fandom and Fanzone, I saw these guys play earlier in the year in Fandom. Rue was able to take that one. But I think it is so much closer of a game when it comes to both guys prepped, ready to rock in debate, because even actually take the prep out of it. You just throw these two guys into a room, give them questions. I feel like they would deliver a great debate with no prep whatsoever. And so knowing the questions ahead of time, preparing answers and everything, I think it's even scarier. Two of the most underrated players in Fanzone, despite their high ranks, I will say. I'm super looking forward to this. Brian, your thoughts on the first matchup of round 2?
Absolutely. This is a great matchup. These are both two guys, obviously great guys in the community. Nice guys, but I think both of them, when they get into debates, are going to get really fierce. They get loud. They get their opinions out. They're both great debaters. So this is going to be a fun one.
And Mark, what do you think?
This should be fun. In a short time in doing this, I noticed that both have a tendency to be quite intimidating here, and can just take over the conversation, just kind of when they want to. The hell?
And you're muted.
Okay. Yeah, Tim.
I'm muted. Great. I said that. Now I'm turning into Cody. I said that I think they might do that not only in debate there, Mark, but I'm looking forward to it. Let's get into it. We'll start with the lower seed, but only by a little bit. Boatman is the lower seed, number 5 seed. Boatman, you came into this tournament saying, do I have to? And I said, please. And then you said, all right. And then you won the first match, and now you're playing Rue. How are you feeling going into match number 2? And you're muted too. We're all muted. Get used to it. How are you feeling going into this match today?
Do I have to?
Yes.
Good. This is a very busy time for me, but yeah. Well, it'll be fun.
Get your mind off of things.
Apparently saving all his words for the debate.
Yeah.
I don't have much to say. Rue's nice.
Awesome. All right. Well, let's bring in your opponent, the number 4 seed, Rue Moses. Rue, welcome back. In your last match, you went up against Tyler Birch. Very good match. You won without having to go to the bonus round. And I forgot to mention before, Bowman won his match by KO. So both players doing really well in their round 1 match as well. But Rue, how are you feeling about going up against someone like Boatman in a debate style versus like a trivia style?
How I usually feel before these things: very excited, very nervous. It's just how I'm in all of these. I don't. Boat mentioned it at the end of the last match. I don't play him in many things, so this is twice in a year. So I'm looking forward to this.
Yeah. All right, let's get into it. Here's how it's going to work. So the players drafted categories. Then we gave them some questions based on those categories, and they're going to debate those tonight before our very souls. So they're each going to get a 1-minute opening, followed by a 5-minute freeform, followed by a 1-minute closing. At the end of the debate, Brian, Mark, and I will write on our handy-dandy boards who we think won that question. 2 out of 3 votes wins you a point, and the first person to 3 points wins the match. Are there any questions from the debaters?
Nope.
Great. So let's get into this. do love that clip, though. Okay, so we're going to kick this off with the first category. This was drafted by Mr. Moses. It is in the category of actors and actresses. The question is, what 2000s Mike Epps film would have been better with him in the lead role? So, Rue, you drafted this one. You get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking, and I will come in to give you a 10-second warning.
There's a movie that came out in 2000 called Three Strikes that inhibited all of the worst aspects of Black cinema comedies of that era. It was misogynistic. It was homophobic. It's poorly written. It's poorly acted. The only saving grace it has is when it gets to be actually funny. And that only happens when stand-up comics like David Allen Greer get to be on screen, improv and doing their thing. George Wallace gets to be on screen, improv and doing his thing. Monique gets to improv, do her thing. When 2 seconds of Mike Epps gets to be on screen, improv and doing his thing. And that 2 seconds of Mike Epps is funnier than everything the lead, Brian Holmes, is trying to do, trying to be physical, trying to run from the police, trying to talk shit. And if he was funny, if he was likable, if he was charming, at least that would be funny. And that is why Mike Epps would be perfect to make this film better, because in 2000, he was in Next Friday, where everything Brian was trying to do, he does so well and so funny that he replaced Chris Tucker next to Ice Cube, and nobody said a word because he's that great at that.
I'm sure someone said. Anyway, we'll go over to Boatman. Boatman, you have 1 minute to open your argument when you start talking.
Yeah, so I kind of went in a unique direction with this. So I'm going with The Hangover, but instead of essentially, it's still him in the lead role, but instead of replacing a character, I'm just making Black Doug part of the wolf pack. I think the idea of once they get Black Doug and, Chow brings him back in, that I think it would be hilarious if Black Doug just stayed with the wolf pack because he had nothing better to do and just hung out for the rest of the movie. I think adding Mike Epps is just that extra bonus of having him in that dynamic, having someone to kind of bounce off of him. I think you can do something really funny with Alan thinking that, oh, this is Doug, and just being confused. And I think there's a lot of fun bits you can do. And I think you can actually get some emotional payoff by having him kind of be absorbed by the group, even though he really just had nothing to do, kind of an Allison from Breakfast Club situation.
Time. All right. 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking. I will drop the 1 minute warning on screen when that time comes, and I will come in for the 10-second warning. And then if I feel like someone's talking too long, being obnoxious, a general douche, I will throw up the let's move on. And then, you guys have 5 minutes when one of you starts talking.
Boat, it's very clear you picked The Hangover because that's the movie you know and the movie you've seen. Because I was going to tell you, there's no way he's replacing any of those leads, and you knew it as well, and that's why you made him a supporting character. That's not a lead role. Making Black Doug join the group, he will not be the lead. He will be the supporting, because that's what he does. In every movie that he's successful in, he is the supporting character to somebody else. Ice Cube, Jamie Foxx, the Method Man and Red Man, and How High. He's not going to be a lead in that, so you're not even making the movie better, nor putting him in a lead role.
I would argue if he's part of the wolf pack, he's a lead. He is part of that group. And your argument is, oh yeah, every movie where he's in, he's great in the supporting part. And you're just saying you want to put him in the direct lead where, I'm sorry, Mike Epps is only funny in small doses. And I've seen both Friday sequels. I've seen a lot of Mike Epps movies. I've seen Friday sequels, and you brought up Next Friday. He's bad in Next Friday. He is awful in Next Friday. And you want to bring that same energy to another movie?
He's awful in Next Friday when, again, he replaced Chris Tucker, one of the funniest dudes of all time, and he was made basically the co-lead in that film with Ice Cube, and then 2 years later put in All About the Benjamins and continues to get role after role after role, because what he does best is talk shit, do physical comedy, make fun of everybody, and just do his own thing. And if he's in the wolf pack, if they pick up Black Doug, he's not the lead because he doesn't start with them. He comes in the middle of the film and he joins them later. That is not a lead. That is a supporting role. In Three Strikes, he would do what he basically did in All About the Benjamins 2 years later, being a dude in a tragedy of comedies, going after coincidence after coincidence after coincidence, talking shit, running from the police, having to evade things he doesn't want to do, and bullshitting until he's put to task. That's what he does best. That's what makes this horrible movie better.
First off, your Chris Tucker argument. Jamie Kennedy replaced Jim Carrey. That doesn't mean diddly fucking squat. At the end of the day, yeah, no, exactly. Like you're saying, well, he replaced Chris Tucker. Again, yeah, that's exactly your argument. Vomit. The other thing is you're saying, oh, he can't be a lead role if he shows up that in a movie. Anthony Hopkins won a lead acting Oscar for Silence of the Lambs, and he's in 20 minutes that movie. That doesn't mean anything. He's part of the lead. He's part of the wolf pack. That makes him part of the lead. It's part of the argument, and I think we're adding a good element to it. Again, Mike Epps, when he's in like the direct lead, like you're talking about, he does too much. And in this role where he has to be like scared all the time, that's like the worst part of Friday, of the next Friday. Like that is his most annoying, like when he has to be running from the different things. Like he's so annoying in that. I like him as kind of confident, talking shit about all the other members of the wolf pack. I think that's fun because it's playing to Mike Epps' strengths, not doing his like screaming, annoying, like what we would probably be doing in Three Strikes.
And next Friday, one of his funniest things is when he's scared after somebody crushes his roof and he goes, look at my roof, look at my roof. And what does he do in Hangover when they find out he's on the roof? Roofling. It's the same stuff. So that's one. Second, where did Jamie Kennedy go after The Son of the Mask? Nowhere. Where did Chris Tucker go after Friday? Rush Hour, Money Talks, Rush Hour 2, Fifth Element. So many things after because he's funny. And your Oscars thing is just semantics. You put Mike Epps in the same role 2 years earlier that he did in All About the Benjamins, and he's going to shine in what he does best. You are not pitching him in an actual lead role. You're bringing him later as one of the better supporting characters because he gets to do what he does best, but he would not be the lead. He can't replace any of the leads to make a modern classic better.
Your argument that you just said about Chris Tucker doesn't make any sense because you just brought up, yeah, after Chris Tucker, he did The Fifth Element, that stuff, and then you're comparing him to Jamie Kennedy, who replaced Jim Carrey. Mike Epps replaced Chris Tucker. So you should be talking about Jim Carrey, who did who did after that did Bruce Almighty, did Liar Liar. Like you're talking about all these other, he did freaking Truman Show after The Mask. I have no idea what your argument is in regards to that. That doesn't make any sense.
You said Chris Tucker wasn't funny, so you compared him to Jamie Kennedy.
That's
I proved that Jamie Kennedy was not funny, and Chris Tucker is. That proves that Mike Epps can replace Chris Tucker and still be funny.
That's not what I said. I said that Jamie Kennedy replaced Jim Carrey, just like your argument was, well, Mike Epps replaced Chris Tucker, so that means he's good. And that's what I'm saying is that doesn't make any sense. And that's what I'm saying. Then you twisted my argument and said I said Chris Tucker wasn't funny. That's not what I said, whatever. At the end of the day, the Wolf Pack, I think adding him into that dynamic, playing to what his actual strengths are would be fun. You want him to do the things that he's not good at.
Oh. Time. Boatman, you get to close first. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
There's kind of a big difference between the Rooflin moment in The Hangover that Rue brought up and the moment in Next Friday, where in Next Friday his emotion is very like scared and upset. He's not doing that in that. And again, I think he's annoying when he's like scared and upset. And I think putting him in Three Strikes where everybody's coming after him and he's trying like to avoid Three Strikes, he's going to be really annoying in that. Whereas I actually think you're going to improve The Hangover by adding a fourth person to that dynamic where he's angry, where he's like has something to play off of with the other Wolfpack members. I actually think it's going to be fun. You're going to get a great emotional payoff when he actually is at the wedding at the end. I actually think it's going to be like the perfect cherry on the sundae.
Ending about 15 seconds early. Okay. We're going to bring in Mr. Moses for his 1 minute closing when he starts talking.
The best Mike Epps is him being a stand-up comic put in a movie, not a comedic actor. And that's why Boatman basically made him the best supporting actor in the movie around the three leads, which is why also Mike Epps can replace one of the funniest comics of all time in Chris Tucker, who had a career after that and still be extremely funny and everybody love him. And that is why he should have done the role of Three Strikes that he did 2 years later in All About the Benjamins, where he gets to talk shit, run away from the police, evade the advances of Monique, BS and be called upon it, and have people love him in that role to make a horrible movie at least tolerable because you like the guy in the lead. who I don't even remember Brian's last name in that movie, and I just watched it like 30 minutes ago because he's not charming. Everything Boat put together is a good, great, funny supporting actor. Everything I put together was Mike Epps being his best in a film that's horrible and making it at least funny.
Right. Great. Gonna bring in the judges for this clusterfuck. Sorry, that was mean. I'm so confused. I haven't seen. Oh my god. Would you believe me if I told you I've only seen The Hangover Part 3?
Ooh,
Well, you shouldn't believe me. It's not true. I've seen all of them.
I wouldn't think so.
I love the first Hangover. All right. I miss Dr. Pepper. I started drinking diet soda because I thought it would help me lose weight, and it did. But I miss Dr. Pepper, and Diet Dr. Pepper is ass. I don't know, man. This was a little cuckoo. And I'm excited for the rest of the fights because the passion here is intense, and this is what I wanted from it. I feel like we went down a lot of rabbit holes that made no sense to the argument whatsoever. Boatman's beard is so distracting, but I love it. I don't know. I went with Caleb. And I think at the end of the day, the reason why was he was kind of able, to me, to explain why, like most of Rue's big argument was like Black Doug would not be a lead role in The Hangover to the other three characters, and Boatman was able to kind of convince me that it would with those guys, and most of the fight was taken up from like semantic arguments that didn't make a whole lot of a difference to me, but Boatman was just kind of able to convince me that, like, based on what Rue was saying, that if he was gonna do if Epps was gonna do the way that Epps would be in Rue's film, actually would be a hindrance to the film and not a good thing. So that's why I went with Boatman. Brian.
Yeah. First of all, although I'm sure that's what he's called and credited as in the movie, I'm just a little disturbed by having Boatman just yell the name Black Doug so many times.
Yeah, that's fair. I don't know, man.
Black Doug, Black Doug. So that was up. No, I mean, I agree. They went down a lot of rabbit holes, a lot of semantics, things like that. But I mean, I think Rue is smart. He kind of put Caleb on his heels, kind of in the very beginning, talking about which movies he hadn't seen, how he knew which one he'd pick, that kind of thing. And he had to kind of spend time defending that. But then we got into the whole thing about whether he would be a lead or not. And Caleb was talking about how as part of the Wolfpack, he would be one of the leads, which Rue in his closing backed up by calling the Wolfpack the three leads. So I think that kind of negated that, as it would make him, if he was part of that, one of the leads. At the end, I did end up going for Rue, though. And the reason being, I think while Caleb made a great pitch for, why Mike Epps could have a bigger part in the movie and it would be good, I think that Rue did a better job explaining to me why that movie would be better because of him in the lead, because it would, instead of dealing with the misogyny and the homophobia and things like that, it would focus on the stand-up comedy, the comedic moments that he would bring to that.
That's fair. All right, Mark, right out of the gate, you get to decide one. How you feeling and what you going for?
He loves this position.
That's not true at all. Like,
I hate it. So I'm
not even going to entertain like the opposite side of that because I never like him in the side. But that being said, I did go with Amaru for this one. So, virtually the same reasons that Brian just brought up. Because, just kind of said it. This argument was a bit of a mess. Like, just kind of went places here. But I think at the end of the day, like I'm kind of with Amaru on his Mike Epps would have made Three Strikes better. And after kind of everything that Caleb said, I'm not sure if Mike Epps being more of a central role would have made The Hangover better. And it just kind of simply just came down to that.
That's fair. All right, so Rue wins the first point. We are going to move on to the second question, which was drafted by Caleb. It was in the category of DreamWorks animation. And the question is, who is the most obnoxious character in a DreamWorks animated film? It's going to drive me crazy if that A is not animated or is not capitalized while we do this. So I'm going to just change that real quick. There we go. Okay. Boatman, you get to kick this one off. You got 1 minute when you start talking.
There's two kinds of annoying and there's two kinds of obnoxiousness. There's the annoying where it's like, yeah, this is like, it's annoying in the sense that it's supposed to be annoying, but also it works for the film. It's supposed to be kind of endearing. It's fun. It works. It improves the film. It helps the film. And then there's another kind of annoying. Your Jar Jar Binks type of annoying, if you will. And that is the type of annoying, the type of obnoxiousness that O from Home brings. Just one of the most annoying, unfunny, hateable characters in a movie I've ever seen, and you're supposed to like him. He's one of your leads, and he is just so obnoxious and so unbearable. Jim Parsons, I don't know what this guy is doing here. It's so annoying. Can I come in the out now? Like, just the absolute, one of the dumbest characters. There's no consistency to it. Just completely obnoxious, unfunny, unbearable, and makes the movie awful.
Time. Okay, we're going to move over to Rue. Rue, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
There's nothing more obnoxious than a person that uses the facade of being a good guy to be woe is me, to be selfish, to just not take no for an answer. Worse than that is a guy who uses that to just basically say he deserves everything that he wants. Worse than that is a guy who can't take no from an answer from a woman who is friendly to him, who is trying to gently put him down and say, we're not going together. So he obnoxiously is like, no, well, it's all right. We'll do it later. Can't take no for an answer. And worse than that is when that man is given powers to become the hero and the best version of himself. Instead, the honest version of himself, the douchebag, selfish, everything belongs to him, and I'm going to go ahead and because I have powers, now we can be together, is just absolutely not taking no from an answer. Nothing is more obnoxious than that kind of person, and that is why Hal from Megamind is the most obnoxious character in all of DreamWorks.
Right. All right. O versus Hal, 5 minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
I think the big difference here is that your character doesn't hurt your movie. My character is so obnoxious, he completely makes the movie unwatchable and unbearable. Your character, yes, if you met them in real life, sure, it would suck. But as a functioning part of the movie, it is not that obnoxious. And if it was, nobody would like Megamind. Nobody likes Home. Home is awful. Everybody loves Megamind.
It's the exact opposite. He's so obnoxious that you hate him, and it makes the movie better. That's why Hal works. At every point, he is supposed to be obnoxious, and he makes you obnoxious, and he makes you hate him. That makes you make Megamind more likable. Oh, I don't care if the movie is worse. O is not obnoxious. His species are assholes. All he is somebody who's friendly, who wants to help each other out, who is following the rules of the actual obnoxious person in SMEC, who basically started something that causes genocide. And once he's actually able to become a friend for somebody, what happens? He soups up a car, he brings an orphan to their mom across the world, and he ends an intergalactic battle. And when everybody figures out it's SMEC who's the obnoxious one, what do? Oh, you're great. Oh, he's my best friend. He's obnoxious because of everybody else around him, which means he's not obnoxious. Hal is obnoxious and is supposed to be and makes the movie better because of it.
You're confusing obnoxious with mean or bad or evil. Like, no, you can be a good person and still be obnoxious. You can be unpleasant to be around, and that is what it is like watching the movie Home and dealing with that character constantly making noises, doing screaming, being very annoying, very stupid. He's an incredibly stupid character. He almost gets them caught half the time. He's very stupid. It's unbearable to watch. And your point, again, your movie works. There are characters that are supposed to be obnoxious and they suck and ruin the movie because they're too obnoxious. Hal is just the right amount. If they went overboard with it, Megamind would suck. O is so obnoxious that he is the reason why the movie is so unwatchable.
You can also be obnoxious and be evil. And Hal is so obnoxious that he is dangerous. And then when he gets powers, that on himself, the obnoxiousness of thinking everything is deserved from him, that everything that he before the powers, he hated Bernard because Roxanne wanted to be with him. After the powers, he almost kills her twice by saving her life and saying, we can be together now. And he's the perfect amount of obnoxious to make him unlikable, to make you hate him and make the movie better. You just don't like Home. You're not telling me that O is obnoxious. You just think he's a bad written character. He is not obnoxious at all. It's everybody else around him who actually sucks. And Smek, who's the actual obnoxious character, that again, once they figure out Smek is the reason, everybody loves him. Tip becomes friends with him. You don't like the character. Hal is actually obnoxious to the benefit of his movie.
Again, I think you're just not arguing the question. You're saying Smek's obnoxious. That's not obnoxious. Again, that's just mean. That's being a dick. I'll give you Hal is a dick. Hal's a dick. But at the end of the day, O from Home is so obnoxious. Yes, he's a badly written character, just like Jar Jar Binks, who's obnoxious. Jar Jar Binks is not a bad person. You can still be good and be obnoxious. So either you're saying that you don't think Jar Jar Binks is obnoxious, or at the end of the day, you're just not fighting obnoxious. So O from Home is so annoying and is unbearable to be with, and is ultimately... he's annoying. He even annoys Tip. So even in world, he's obnoxious. But I'm fighting actually just as a movie fan, where again, you keep playing in my hand, and that Hal still makes the movie work without him. I mean, with him.
Tip is the reason that what the boos consider obnoxious in O. Tip is the reason that he grows and becomes a better person. Again, I find obnoxious characters. If you're actually obnoxious and you make me like the movie more, then you are considerably obnoxious to a great point, which is what everything Hal does is. O, again, fine. We're fighting semantics. It doesn't matter whether or not the movie is good or bad. The actual obnoxious character is the one who is made to be that way. And the most obnoxious one is the one that's going to be good for the movie. They're going to be better for the movie. O is not even is not obnoxious in the movie. It's just poorly written. It's just a movie that kind of sucks overall. And you don't like it. That doesn't make him an obnoxious character. That makes him a badly written.
Yeah, no, I completely disagree, because at the end of the day, he is so unpleasant.
He is so unpleasant. Just what a way to end that. Rue, we go to you. Your 1 minute closing when you start talking.
If we wanted to talk about obnoxious characters we didn't like, we could pick any bad movie in any DreamWorks animated, which they have a lot of them, and say they're obnoxious because we don't like what they do or what their movie is. But if we're talking about most obnoxious, it's best to pick one that is made to be obnoxious, because if you were a woman and you kept telling this person no, 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 and then he ends up almost killing you, leaving stranded on the top of a building, you would consider him obnoxious as hell. And the fact that he is that obnoxious, Hal, and he makes the movie so much better, proves how much of an obnoxious character is. O, on the other hand, Caleb is arguing that he's obnoxious because he's a bad character, but when you actually look at him, the actual character itself is not supposed to end up being obnoxious. He ends up showing that he's actually friendly. When somebody gives him a chance, he helps them out. He ends a war. He does everything that an actual friend does. And in the movie, everybody around him who's an asshole ends up showing, oh, you're great, you're great. I found an obnoxious character that makes my movie better. O just sucks because of bad movie.
Sucks because of bad movie. Strike it from the record. We're going to move over to Boatman. Boatman, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Again, this whole argument, Rue has been arguing that that obnoxiousness is just bad person you don't want to be around. Ultimately, like he called Captain Smek obnoxious. That's not obnoxious. He's just the bad guy. That's like saying Sauron is obnoxious or Darth Vader's obnoxious. No, obnoxiousness is the actual definition is extremely unpleasant. And frankly, Hal was not obnoxious enough to ruin the movie. If he was extremely unpleasant, he would be so unbearable. O is so unbearable, and it's not just because he's from a bad movie. O is annoying, or O makes the movie bad. He's the reason the movie's bad. He's awfully written. Rue agreed with me on that. That O is terribly written. He's incredibly annoying, and yeah, in the context of the movie, he's maybe supposed to be a good guy, but that doesn't stop you from wanting to pull your hair out.
Woo, boy! All right, let's bring in the judges. This is what I wanted to see. All right. All right, now I'm ready. Mark, you get to kick this one off.
Sure. I thought it's kind of weird because I feel like we kind of the players went kind of back and forth whether or not they were arguing the point. I feel like at the end of the day, we were just asking like who the most obnoxious character was. Like that was it. That was all we were going for. Just like who kind of sucks the most. And if we're just kind of going off of that, like, I kind of had to give it to Rue a bit because I feel like he explained it to the best extent why Hal just really, really sucks. He's just a terrible person. I think he maybe seems obnoxious, but he really isn't, just kind of given the context of everything else around him. And I think that's more or less how I'm going to lean with that. Yeah.
Okay, I'm going next. I saw Home in the theater 3 times.
I'm sorry.
I had to do an early screening of it, working at the theater, a quality check, as they call it in my business. Then I saw it with Maggie, and then my niece, who was 7 at the time, said, "Take me to the Alien movie." I went with "I'm on a boat, motherfucker," and I could not disagree more with Mark. And honest, like straight up, I thought Boat kind of ran away with this. And there's no shot at Rue. I just thought that Rue came to it from like Boat's opening was very like, O is obnoxious. Jim Parsons is the worst. I disagree with you, but he explained to me very well why O was obnoxious. And then Rue came to it from a different angle that I wasn't expecting, of like, the character is so obnoxious that it helps the film. And I was like, ooh, this is interesting. But I thought Boat just the whole time was able to be like, your movie like is still good despite this character. My movie is unwatchable because of how obnoxious my character is. And I thought the takedown of just like of Rue saying like Smek is obnoxious and Boat just being like, he's the bad guy. Like, he's not obnoxious, he's just a villain. Like, I don't know. I'm on the complete opposite side. I thought Boat ran away with it. Brian, you get to decide this one. Where are you going?
I didn't think anybody ran away with it. I think that Boat kind of set up the entire debate with his opening, because he was talking about how there are the 2 kinds of obnoxious. They're obnoxious, so they're supposed to be obnoxious in the movie, and you're supposed to find them obnoxious, and the ones that just suck to make the movie suck. And Boat chose one, and Rue chose the other one. Yeah, so he kind of set up the whole thing right there with this argument, which almost kind of helped Rue in the beginning. Because he kind of said, yeah, it's like, mine's supposed to be obnoxious. That's part of the movie. That's why it makes it a good movie, makes him a good character. But I did end up going with Caleb actually. I feel like a lot of Rue's attacks were, about why he was a bad character, why they were so obnoxious, nobody liked him, things like that. But it every time he hit him with even after you found out that Smek was the villain, that everybody loved him, and Boat came back with yeah, you can love somebody, you can think somebody's nice, and they can still be obnoxious, which to me is like half of the community multiplex that we're in.
I don't disagree with that.
A lot of nice people can be a little obnoxious. I don't exclude myself from that, by the way. But I mean, I think Caleb did a good job of defending all that stuff and supporting his argument, so I gave it to Caleb.
All right, Caleb wins a point, and we're gonna have a barn burner, ladies and gentlemen, or I should just say gentlemen. There's no ladies watching this. That each other wins each other's points. Boatman, who's watching this, Boatman?
I mean, like Brittany could. You don't know. Kelly could.
I would love it if they joined debate. Brittany, Kelly.
No, he knows there's females
Alyssa.
watching. He just doesn't think they're ladies. He's
Get in
insulting.
here.
That's mean.
Okay. I'm out of control. We're going to move on to the third question. This is a barn burner. We're tied up 1-1. They won each other's questions. I love it. We're going to get into the next category, and it's my favorite. It's Middle Earth. The category is Middle Earth, and the question is, who should direct a new film in the Middle Earth franchise? We did exclude Peter Jackson from the running. I should say that. Rue, you drafted this, so you're going to get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
The next film in the Lord of the Rings franchise is called The War of the Rohirrim. It's going to be an animated movie, but whether animated or live action, as proven as the 1978 piece of crap and The Hobbit, everything that makes Lord of the Rings great is having a grand and an epic world that you want to live in, because the movie is rooted in characters you love and an amazing story. So whether animated or live action, there's one director who has the passion for the story, who can build fantasy worlds, who has great characters, who knows how to do action, can make his own great movie with the characters and story you love, whether it's an adaptation or on his own, that can take Lord of the Rings and bring it back to what it's supposed to be, because you love everything that he creates and he builds, because he's so detailed and so loving and so passionate of that fantasy, whether he creates it himself or it's brought to him from Middle Earth, and that person is Guillermo del Toro.
Ooh. I really like the way you said that name. Okay, so we're going to move over to Boatman. Boatman, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
We got the Lord of the Rings trilogy, Peter Jackson. We got that. And we got The Hobbit with also Peter Jackson. I think we need to go someplace completely different. I'm not going to necessarily pitch a specific book or world or whatever to adapt, because I want to just give this guy a blank check, because he prints money and he prints gold. James Cameron, everybody. I think James Cameron, behind the directing helm, I think not necessarily writing, could write, maybe not, but definitely the question is directing. So James Cameron, behind the directing realm, would A, make it his own, but B, I think do something incredible, epic, give the perfect right amount of scale to it. And it's not like he's a stranger to jumping into a franchise at a sequel before. He did it with Aliens. Like, that was awesome. So he can imagine, like, everyone's criticism of Avatar was the characters. Imagine a James Cameron movie with great characters.
With great characters.
I think I got with under the...
Fair. Okay. Are you guys just, like, trying to play to my tastes? Guys, this is great. 5 minute freeform and one of you starts talking.
With great
two reasons why James Cameron doesn't work. First, the smallest reason is this dude doesn't do fantasy. He does realistic science fiction, where he can only build things based off of things he's seen before, which leads to my biggest reason and the overall reason why James Cameron would suck at this. Everything is about him, the world, the scope, and his direction at the detriment to his characters. You say, imagine a James Cameron movie with great characters. That's not going to happen, because he cannot make his own characters. Everything is about making the world bigger and stuffing it and making it look good. None of the characters that he has in his movies are any good with just him. He has to grab actors to elevate despite him. Guillermo del Toro can actually make worlds, can actually adopt things, can actually root the characters to make a grand world, which he's already built, like he's done in Pan's Labyrinth and other things that he's done, and make it even better because he knows how to make characters and story that you love in any aspect. James Cameron will be all about himself.
Okay, first off, I think the characters thing is not correct because, again, like, look what he did with Ripley. He was able to do that in Aliens. So saying, oh, he can't take characters, like, and it's not like he's going to be completely writing these new characters. These are characters that will be created, and I'm not putting him at the writing helm. I'm putting him at the directing helm, which is, I think, where he's going to give us some epic scale and some great stuff. The big problem with Guillermo del Toro is that guy left The Hobbit. He doesn't want to do this. He wants, let him create his own stuff. He's great when he can do his own thing and do what he wants to do. He clearly doesn't want to do that, or he wouldn't have left The Hobbit.
Or he wouldn't have left The Hobbit if he didn't see that the studio wanted to make 3 movies instead of 2. But he kept his name on it, of course, because he wanted to like actually put some input on it and make some money off of it. But he left The Hobbit because it was a big ass spectacle, which was James Cameron will be doing if he's directing. I already mentioned it. Sigourney Weaver, first off, is a real person. He has to make unrealistic characters feel real. And Sigourney Weaver acted her ass off despite James Cameron focusing on everything else. He can't go into the Lord of the Rings. He's never proven to go into a world and direct something without characters that need to be good stories and good characters. Anytime he's given actors that can't do it, that can't elevate the stuff that he's missing, you get Sam Worthington as Sully. That's what you get. Guillermo del Toro has proven he can do it all. You see it in Hellboy, where he can make an adaptation. You see he's done it with action. He can create an adaptation and make it his own and make it different in his Pinocchio. You can see that he does action very well with Blade. You can see that he does fantasy with Pan's Labyrinth. Everything about what he does will be rooted in everything that Lord of the Rings is great about. James Cameron will just make another Hobbit overstuffed spectacle.
Okay, first off, I do want to backtrack to your fantasy thing. Just because James Cameron hasn't made a fantasy doesn't mean he can't make a fantasy. And your Sigourney Weaver argument with Aliens doesn't really make sense because at the end of the day, Aliens has a lot of time just focusing on the characters. You get the great moment with Bishop. There's a lot of great character moments that are not just about the actors. Those are actually just scenes he chooses to focus on. And again, you tend to be thinking about writing. I'm not saying James Cameron writing this. I'm saying he's directing this. So I think that just doesn't really make sense. Back to the Guillermo del Toro point about the Hobbit, though. Him leaving his name on it doesn't mean anything. He did enough apparently to get a credit on it, and he did that credit. And he left because he had friction with what Peter Jackson wanted to do. And I would rather let Guillermo del Toro do his own thing and actually just do what he wants to do. I don't want to force Guillermo del Toro to make a Middle-earth movie. James Cameron, I'm totally okay with saying, hey, take this awesome world with great characters and give us a great spectacle that will still be unique from what Peter Jackson gave us because it'll have the Cameron touch that'll be different.
The better characters are in Alien. The better action is in Aliens. That's why James Cameron did so well at that, because it's a better action film where the characters are not with James Cameron. You were talking about Guillermo del Toro left for whatever reason. That doesn't matter. Let's say that he's able to go in there, do what he wants to do, because he clearly has a passion for it. That's why he wanted to do it, and let him build the world. Let him use the stuff that he's given and then make the characters that he like, bring his people in and build what he should have done in The Hobbit. Because he had friction. He didn't do it because he had friction with whatever they wanted to do, and that proved to suck. Let him actually come in and build the worlds we know he can build, use the characters we know he can do, and make his own thing, while James Cameron will focus on scope despite the characters and will just get another Hobbit.
Time. All right. We are going to close first, starting with Boatman. Boatman, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
So Rue just said Guillermo del Toro wanted to do The Hobbit because he had a passion for these characters, is what he said. So as in the characters in The Hobbit. Newsflash, he's not going to come back to The Hobbit. So if he's making a new film in this, he's not doing it for The Hobbit, which is the one that you said he had passion with the characters for. He's not coming back to The Hobbit, and I don't want him to come back to The Hobbit. And obviously, he left The Hobbit, so that he doesn't have passion then. And your argument about Alien has the good characters and not Aliens, that's just incorrect because you've got Hudson, you've got Hicks, like you've got Bishop, like you got a lot of great moments, and actually. Ripley doesn't become Ripley until Aliens. That's when she's actually the badass who gets to do stuff. In Aliens, she just kind of ends. She's the final girl by happenstance, is what she is in Aliens. Alien. So that's completely incorrect. Whereas Aliens is where she actually gets to build the world. Guillermo del Toro's not going to care. Let him do his own thing. James Cameron will be great.
All right. We're going to move over to Rue for his closing argument when he starts talking.
Guillermo del Toro has a clear passion for the world of Middle-earth, and that's why he wanted to do The Hobbit. But because of that passion, because of his proof that he's able to create great characters from fantasy, because of the proof that he can make an adaptation or make in his own world, he will definitely create characters that we love with a story that's interesting to make his own world that is grand and make it grander. He's proven that he can take something given to him, make it his own, and then make it even better as he did in Pinocchio. Everything James Cameron has done has been scope and epic and big and direction and all about him, which is what we got in The Hobbit. So when you put him in the helm, he's going to worry about how can I make the world bigger? How can I make this look better? How can I make Lord of the Rings Middle-earth the best Middle-earth ever? And he is not going to focus on what actually makes Middle-earth great. He's going to hope that his actors can help him with that. He's going to hope that his writers are going to help him with that. I don't want that. I want somebody who is proven to care for everything that Lord of the Rings is about.
Okay. Sweet mercy, mother of God. For my own sanity, Caleb Boatman, since you're a human encyclopedia, what movies did Del Toro do before Shape of Water that he did instead of The Hobbit? It's not
Crimson Peak.
Thank you. I knew he did something. Wait, what year did Pacific Rim come out?
That was 2013. So maybe that was also.
It was probably basic.
That could have been. I don't know. That should not affect the argument either way.
It does not at all. It was driving me bananas that I'm like, he left The Hobbit. What did he do before Shape of Water?
It's almost like you're not sitting in front of a computer or something. We could look that up.
I was listening to the argument.
Apparently not. You were distracted.
Sorry.
And after this question, I'll need to leave and come back because my internet's being a little.
Okay.
Fuck, man.
Sorry, I'm taking so long.
I didn't know where I was going with this either, so. Fuck.
Okay. All right. Brian, you're starting.
Yeah. I would absolutely rather watch a James Cameron Middle-earth film or any film over Guillermo del Toro. He's just not my bag. However, based on debate, I went with Rue. I did not agree with a lot of his knocks against Cameron, but he did a great job of his pros and his support for the reasons that Guillermo del Toro would be good for it. So based on his pros, not his cons for Cameron, I wrote for him.
Mark.
I don't know. This one was really close. I feel like I don't know. Like in a way, like I feel like both would probably at least make the type of movie that I think people would want to see, at least in the Middle Earth world. And honestly, going back and forth, I think I'm gonna give the slight edge to Boatman here. I think I feel like just at the end of the day, I think he just ended up, was able to defend a little bit better. I think with most of the knocks that I think with that Amaru brought up, at least against James Cameron, I think Boatman was able to come up with a good defense for it, like with he brought up the writing thing, and he Rue kept bringing up the writing thing, and Boatman's like, well, he doesn't need the right thing. We're talking about directing, and he kept bringing up, well, Del Toro didn't really want to do this movie before, and like he left, and like I kind of like that, and we kept bringing up like he hasn't dealt with good characters before, and I mean he kept bringing up like the bunch of alien characters that were good in that movie. So I think just as far as kind of how Boatman was able to defend off against Del Toro, I'm getting a good point.
You see my hair right now? This is how stressed I am. As Mark did earlier, I hate being the deciding vote. And this one was tough. I kind of have an amalgamation of ideas between Brian and Mark. I went with Caleb. I'm sorry, Rue. I don't hate you. I actually love you. You're a great dude. But I agree with... Mark kind of said it best. I think the thing that kind of leaned me over the edge was there were multiple times where I thought Rue's pros for Del Toro, excellent. I love Del Toro. Top 5 directors for me. Love him. And all of his points about it, absolutely accurate. But his knocks against Cameron, I thought Boatman was able to just swipe. Including the characters' argument of that there are, and he was able to name characters from Aliens other than Ripley that were excellent, that are memorable characters. But this one, it was so close. This was the closest one to the fight so far. And I always get stressed out, especially not only when I have to decide the vote, but when I realize that someone's going to think I hate them because I haven't voted for them. But I promise you it's not the case. I did go with Caleb, though, and he wins the point. So that being said, Boatman, do you need to leave and come back?
That would probably be best.
We'll be right back. All right. Boatman is back. And we are going to move into the final question, which was drafted in the category of Oscars from Caleb. The question is, which classic Best Picture winner was the least deserving of the award? Caleb, you get to kick this one off. You have 1 minute when you start talking.
Least deserving can kind of be taken 2 directions, right? You can take it in one direction, right? Just the worst movie. The movie that just awful. And you can take it in the direction of a movie that was the least deserving in that it was the worst in its class that year. 1933's Cavalcade wins on both accounts. First off, just in terms of the movie itself, awful. It is both boring bad and laughably bad. In terms of the boring bad, it's basically just, hey, we're a family, and also in the background, British events in history are going on. But in the awful bad segment, you have, remember the movie Remember Me? How there's essentially the movie's normal and then there's the 9/11 jump scare out of nowhere. This movie does that, but with the sinking of the Titanic. That's what Cavalcade does, where it's just 2 people on a boat. And we're like, we've got our full lives ahead of us. And then it just pans down, the Titanic!
Oh man, I knew exactly where you're going with that. Holy shit. Rue, you get 1 minute when you start talking.
In the past 25 years, the Academy in Hollywood has shown that it wants to give Best Picture winners to movies that they can scratch their own back and say, hey, look at what we did. Driving Miss Daisy, Green Book, Coda to some people, Crash. Hey, we are good. Look at how we deal with prejudice. Look at how we deal with racism. Let me give you this feel-good movie. And I thought it was something that recently happened until I saw 1956's Around the World in 80 Days, and the time that they didn't care about racism. They just said, hey, let's look at this spectacle, this movie that also hits on both accounts, that is a middling overstuffed, overblown, boring David Niven comedy that's no better than the Pink Panther or Murder by Death, that also not only got nominated ahead of The Killing, Searchers, and probably the best movie of all time, Seven Samurai, but beat 3 movies that definitely deserved it way more than this slog of a film.
Time. All right. 5-minute freeform when one of you starts talking.
Rue, I wasn't going to do this to you, but you did it to me on the Mike Epps question. I know Cody helped you with the answers, and that where you got this one, because I know he does that. Anyway, I think, I think you're completely missing the point here, because for one, you want to watch The King and I? The King and I is just as bad and just as racist as Around the World in 80 Days, and it's awful. You want to watch Friendly Persuasion? Giant is a slog, and I'm sorry, 10 Commandments kind of sucks. I'm sorry, it's not good. So you've got an awful class, and you've got some nice actual costume design. You've got an actual real good performance from David Niven, and you've got a great performance from a Latino performer in Canton Floss, who actually gets a lead role and is actually doing some really fun, interesting stuff in this movie. Whereas in Cavalcade, you got a movie that beat fantastic films like Lady for a Day, Frank Capra's first one, which is hilarious. Farewell to Arms, Gary Cooper's start, The Little Women, Private Life of Henry VIII with Charles Laughton. You've got all of the films are better. Every single one.
So apparently you are going off of what is going on, what you think is good or not, because in 1933, Cavalcade not only won Best Director, but also got nominated for Best Supporting Actress. And in Around the World in 80 Days, The King and I is considered one of the best romances of all time, why Yul Brynner won the Oscar. Giant was supposed to be the send-off, the epic, great, grand send-off of James Dean, and they decided to Chadwick Boseman him before they did it because they wanted to give it to this movie. David Niven is not doing anything more than he does in Murder by Death or any other movie that should get recognized, but not as Best Picture. It should be all under the line categories. Cantinflas, they have him doing a 15-minute bullfight and a 20-minute flamenco dance, and then they do 20 minutes of going down the jungle just to see what they can do. They made it a spectacle. If they wanted to give Best Picture to a spectacle, at least give it to the 10 Commandments, which has great acting performances. I already mentioned the 2 movies that should have won in The King and I and in Giant. And again, how did Around the World in 80 Days, which is basically, it's a mad world, but longer and slower and not as good, any better than The Killing and The Searchers and the best movie of all time, Seven Samurai. Cavalcade, at least it's a movie that was a movie of its time. It's called The Picture of a Generation for a reason, because it gives you a theme and a dramatic story and big swings that basically give you something that generation dealt with. It ended in 1933, and the fact that it starts with the Marriotts toasting to the New Year and then ends again with the Marriotts toasting to the New Year's after their kids have died, after the war, after everything that's happened, after watching their servants die, and goes through and says, look at all the time that has passed. We are still here. We are still moving on. It at least makes sense to give that movie that. And apparently at that time, they loved it because they gave Best Director as well, while Around the World in 80 Days is 3 hours of Hollywood. Hey, look at what we can do.
Your arguments against Cavalcade, for Cavalcade, have essentially been, oh, well, the Oscars gave it director, and they gave it a nomination in this category, but then you're also saying the Oscars made a giant mistake here. If you're saying the Oscars are good, you're saying the Oscars are good, but you don't get to play this game where the Oscars make right decisions here, but make a wrong decision here. That doesn't make any sense. Around the World, again, you brought up The King and I. You brought up The King and I, and awful movie, awful movie. You brought up it's James Dean's last performance in Giant. It's a slog to watch. Just because they nominated James Dean because he had died, that doesn't mean that it's not a slog to watch. And at the end of the day, you've got a movie in Cavalcade that is a slog to watch, but also is very goofy and ridiculous. But it's boring. It's boring too. It shouldn't be if it's this stupid, but it's still a slog to watch. And yes, they toast to the New Year's at the beginning and the end. That doesn't mean anything. It's just, that's a thing that happens because the actual events of the movie aren't presented in an interesting way, whereas the bullfight and the flamenco dance are both super entertaining to watch because Cantinflas is a really entertaining performer.
The Oscars are wrong. That doesn't mean that it's the least deserving, because it's been wrong for forever. What I'm saying is that Around the World in 80 Days did not deserve to even be considered for Best Picture. Cantinflas could be great. People were great in It's a Mad, 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 Mad World. People were great in a bunch of different movies that should be nominated, like Invasion of the Body Snatchers that year. But it wasn't going to be nominated because nobody in that time gave a damn. I don't give a shit about the racism at that time. There are so many movies that are Best Picture deserving, including Seven Samurai, including all those other movies. You want to say Giant is a slog, but it's considered to be well acted, well directed, and everything like that. Around the World in 80 Days is nothing but a fun adventure. It does not deserve Best Picture. Cavalcade actually has reasons to deserve it.
All right. We are going to start closing arguments with Rue. Rue, you have 1 minute when you start talking.
When you want to talk about least deserving, it does not have to be a bad or horrible film to not deserve it. It just shouldn't be there. And we've shown again and again, I've shown multiple times why Around the World in 80 Days shouldn't have been in the Best Picture talk in the first place. It should have been and was nominated for other under the line categories because of the spectacle. But there are so many other movies that deserved it so much more, should have been nominated, should have beat it. Whereas in Cavalcade was at that time at least something that in 1933, the Academy was like, let's look at this film, let's look at this acting performance, let's look at this direction, let's give it to them, let's actually at least put it in the position to try to win. We look back at those movies at that time, a lot of them are probably not going to be that great, but at least it was deserving to be there, and it was deserving to have the shot. Around the World in 80 Days is a 3-hour spectacle that is no better than any other comedy, any other horror that the Academy has never given a chance. Strike.
All right, let's move over to Boatman. Boatman, you have 1 minute to close when you start talking.
Bruce brought up The Searcher, Seven Samurai. All those films were not nominated. So Around the World in 80 Days didn't beat those films. They weren't in the competition. The competition was Friendly Persuasion, Giant, The King and I, and The Ten Commandments. And again, Rue's argument for Giant is just people recognize it for director. Like that's his only argument. I'm actually arguing the movie, which is a slog. Cavalcade, and again, Rue's argument was, well, they wanted to recognize it in this and the other categories. The Oscars are wrong. You even agree that the Oscars are usually wrong. So again, that doesn't make any sense. Around the World in 80 Days is a movie that actually has some fun scenes and some unique scenes. There's nothing fun about watching Cavalcade, and you just said, oh, well, the movies are old that time. I'm sure they aren't that good. All of the movies are better than Cavalcade. Lady for a Day, Frank Capra, Paul Mooney's great performance in I Am a Fugitive from a Chain Gang. Around the World in 80 Days is fun to watch.
Drink it from the record. All right. Bring in the judges. Okay. Are you guys ready?
Yep.
Okay. I'll go first. I went with Rue. Thought this was good. Honestly, this whole fight has been, other than that first question, has been pretty good. And it's hard having not seen either of these films. But I thought that Rue was able to I think Bowman brought it up at the end in his closing, like, oh, Seven Samurai Searchers, they weren't nominated. He says that doesn't matter. I think it kind of does, because saying that like a movie didn't deserve to win the award, like I get where Boatman was coming from of saying like it wasn't up against them, so why did it matter? But in the grand scheme of all the movies that were released that year, it's still won Best Picture, and those were other movies that were released and are more favorable. Again, it was a lot of like this movie versus that movie type of stuff. It was close. I did go with Rue though. I thought that overall he was just able to give me a better reason why Around the World in 80 Days was less deserving than Cavalcade. Brian.
Yeah, this is one of those where I haven't seen either movie, so I'm going purely by the debate here. And I know based on Logged It, I know Boatman's been watching a lot of bad Oscar movies as of late, so this is right up his alley, I suppose. I want to apologize to Mark because I voted for Caleb. Yell on you. Yeah, this is one. It was pretty close because, like I said, I'm going purely by what I'm hearing in the debate. I will say in Rue's opening, he kind of confused me a bit because he started off with talking about how the Oscars now like to pat themselves on the back for recognizing like Green Book and Drive Miss Daisy and all that, and I'm not sure how that was supposed to tie into Around the World in 80 Days. I didn't really follow that line of logic. But once they got into the movies, I think both of them were doing a pretty good job of supporting, why neither one of them really deserved it. But I thought Boatman just did a little bit better job of comparing it to the other films that were nominated, things like that. Whereas Rue is almost kind of supporting why it won, why saying like Giant was just going to be nominated because of James Dean and so on and so forth. So I went Boatman.
Hey, Mark, you love this. Go.
Oh, I love it so much.
Also, I think our second debate in a row with no clean sweeps.
Yes.
Okay. But yeah, man, this one was really hard. Which I think unlike both judges, I've actually seen at least one of these movies. So
I've seen a remake of Around the World in 80 Days.
And I tried to take that out of this as much as I could, just because I think at the end of the day, I'm gonna I'm gonna kind of separate this for it's kind of how both of you laid out of kind of what made sense at the time, and kind of with that going in, I ended up going with Amaru.
Wow.
So I feel like Amaru kind of made the argument that Cavalcade winning Best Picture made sense at the time. And then when you look at everything, because, I mean, which again, I know we kind of got hung up on that in the fight of, this was nominated for Best Picture or whatever, but I mean, naming like those other movies, I think, I mean, it's in a sense like it's the movies that we remember. It's the movies that we talk about. And at the end of the day, like that's something, I think we got to bring into consideration here a little bit. And I think it doesn't make a lot of sense why Around the World in 80 Days was even kind of looked at highly then. I think Amaru did a good job of supporting his argument around that.
All right. We're going to move on to a bonus round. We haven't done this in a while. So the bonus round, here's how this is going to work. I'm going to say a question. I am prepared to put it on screen. I'll put the question on screen, and then you guys will I'm sorry. I'm going to say the question. I'm then going to repeat the question. After I've said it a second time, you will then get to answer. Whoever says their answer first will be going first. Then whoever says their answer second, obviously will be going second. You will each get 45 seconds and then 30 seconds. In the debate, you can use your time however you want. If you want to sing me a song, great. If you want to talk shit about your opponent, great. You can use your time however you want. So, are there any questions about how the speed round is going to work? Okay. So I randomized between the Fandom and the Melee Zone, and I'm excited to see your reactions because the side that was randomized was Melee, and the category that was randomized was crime. The question is, Who is the best character in a crime film? Again, who is the best character in a crime film?
Kaiser Sose.
Okay.
Do we need to specify the movie?
Yes.
Marge Gunderson from Fargo.
Usual Suspects.
Yeah. So
I almost picked something else. So.
I was more so waiting for someone to be like Michael Corleone.
That's what
like, hey, you got to tell me the movie.
That's why I specifically asked that question.
That's fair. Okay. So we have our 2 picks, and we are going to start with Rue because he went first. I'm going to take Mark and Brian off screen. I'm going to stay on so I can give you guys your countdowns. So Rue, you get to go first. You have 45 seconds when you start talking.
The best characters in any film are the ones that stick with you forever and ever. And even better is the ones that you don't see coming. Kaiser Sose, whatever his name was before he became Kaiser Sose, you thought he was just this patsy, this guy along for the ride, and you believed everything that he was saying in terms of everything how weak he was, everything that he was telling to Michael not Rappaport's character, but telling in the interrogation room. You believed him to be that quiet, that chill. And then the second that the reveal hits, you are like, oh my gosh, he sold that so well, and him turning is believable, and it's cunning, and it's great, and it is the most memorable, best character in any crime film because he sticks with you. Damn it.
Striking. Boatman, 45 seconds when you start talking.
Marge Gunderson is a fully formed character that we recognize and love and get to know and experience the fullness of the entire movie. Kaiser Sose from Usual Suspects is a character who we only see as the one character. And even then, if you're really arguing Kaiser Sose, then that's the figment. But I digress. If we're even going with Verbal Kid, we only see Verbal Kid as just the character. You're saying, oh, well, he's revealed. That's about the writing and the performance. That actually has nothing to do with the actual character itself, which is just this mumbling, stuttering character who doesn't do anything. Marge Gunderson is a character who uses her wits, her knowledge, but also her humor and her heart to solve the crimes and be incredibly endearing and memorable and funny and just lovable.
Time. Rue, 30 seconds.
The entire movie of Usual Suspects is told from Verbal's eyes, and Kaiser Sose is this overarching villain. And we had no idea they were the same person. And when that turn hits, you realize, oh my gosh, that character is so damn amazing because we don't know it's him. Yet we were with him the whole time. Marge Gunderson is likable. She is nice. She is tenacious. She is everything we would want that character to be. She delivers. Sure. I've seen it other times in other films because, and Frances McDormand is great. I had no idea what I was getting with Kaiser and Verbal, and it hits you so hard.
Boatman, 30 seconds.
All of Rue's points about Kaiser Sose tend to be about what we don't see and what we get after the fact. My arguments are actually about what Marge Gunderson is over the course of the movie. You get that great moment with her and her old boyfriend character she knew in high school, and then that goes and causes her to go reinvestigate Jerry Lundegaard, and it's that shows how tenacious she is, and it's a unique perspective. I've never seen a pregnant, funny detective in a movie before. Kaiser Sose is just muttering and stumbling.
Straight from the record. Okay.
Great shit, Boat.
Yeah, you too, man.
This is fun.
My God.
Yeah, for you.
Yeah, right? Yeah.
Let's make Mark decide just for fun again.
Yeah.
I'm ready. Are you guys?
Yep.
Sure.
Mark. Fucking sure. Mark, you get to kick it off.
Cool. Yeah, short and sweet. I went with Caleb. I think as a whole, I think just kind of did a better job. We kind of going with how Marge, I think, was a better character. I think Marge had some more layers, and I think for the most part, we kind of got a little bit in the weeds of whether or not Kaiser Soze was, who Kaiser Soze was, or was he verbal can or whatever. I feel like we kind of argued some semantics, at least with that one, just for that reason, going with Marge in that one.
I've not seen The Usual Suspects, which is weird because I feel like it's a movie I would love, but I haven't watched it. I saw Fargo like 10 years ago. I haven't seen it since. So when Boatman was like, the boyfriend and the thing, I was like, I don't remember any of that. I remember someone going in a wood chipper. So the semantics thing, I agree it was there, but it didn't bother me in the sense that, like, I know that, like, Kevin Spacey is, like, not who he says he is and he's the villain or something. Like, it didn't bother me. To me, like, whether you know he's the character or not, he's still the character. So that argument didn't really sway me one way or the other. I still went with Hose and Boats. Because I agree with Mark at the end of the day that I think that Boat did a better job of explaining why Marge is a more fleshed out, interesting, better character overall. Not necessarily, I don't think his attacks on Kaiser were great, but I think just his pros of Marge were better than Rue's pros of Kaiser. Brian, your vote doesn't count. Where would you have gone and why?
All right, Rue. I felt like I think they were probably two of the best choices they could have picked.
Yeah, that's fair.
They're both great characters. I think a little bit of it, I mean, even in a short debate, a little bit got more into the acting performance side of it. But as far as the characters, while they both did a good job, I thought Rue kind of really explained how, Kaiser is more of a layered character because he's this character, but the whole time he's like, got this whole second layer is pretending to be somebody else and kind of misleading them, and it made him more interesting, more intriguing. So as what's the best character, I found that more intriguing.
That's fair, but your winner is Caleb Boatman. Let's go into post-match interviews. We're going to start by talking to Rue. Rue, I say this every time that I vote for someone more than the person I'm interviewing. I don't hate you. And I even voted for you. No, but Rue, I think you did a great job. This was a really close match. Not a single, even in the bonus round, single split decision, which is as close as you can kind of get. How are you feeling about the match? Obviously, probably not the way you wanted it to go, but still a fantastic match nonetheless. How are you feeling?
Tim, you never vote for me. Like, you vote for me one time every match. That's really what it is. So
I'm sorry.
I'm all right. I'm all right. Just because I knew that this was going to be close. Boat does a really good job of making you try to fight his fight. And I try to do a good job of saying, no, you're going to fight my fight. And I think basically the two middle ones, different judges could have gone different ways. They both were very, very close because we were both fighting two different arguments in those middle ones. And it really was just which one resonated with you more and which one did it. So I knew both of those were, or at the end of it, I was like, it could go either way. I didn't know if I was going to get that last one. I'm very happy that I did. Yeah, so I'm good. I get to take a break. I don't like losing debate though, because I think I'm better than everybody. So I feel like I could have won this one, and I'm kind of pissed off at that aspect of it, but not pissed off at the judging in general because it was a very, very close match.
That's fair. Rue, we will see you back later this season. I'm looking forward to it. Is there anybody that you haven't debated yet, or maybe even someone you have that you want another shot at, that you want to go up against when you come back?
Yes, and I'm mad I'm not going to get that shot. Fucking Bill. Me and Bill have been wanting to debate forever.
Why do you say you can't get that shot?
I mean, it would have to come down the line. Now I have to wait for it.
You'd have to wait for it. Yes, that's fair. That's fair. I would love to see that. That would be awesome. Rue, You did play very, very well tonight. It's always lovely having you. I love just hearing you talk about movies because you know so much about movies. It's awesome to see you here. I love it. We'll see you back soon later this season. Thank you for being here as we bring in the winner, Mr. Boatman. Caleb, what the fuck?
I don't know. I don't know.
I'm not even supposed to be here today.
That's how I feel of the last two debates is I just kind of have been falling upwards, which, I'm not going to complain about because it's like, I don't know. It seems like the two matches, like I've put the least effort in, have yielded the best results for me. And the more effort I put in, the worse I do. So maybe the trick is to not put in as much effort. I don't know. But Ru's a great debater. He had me on the edge there. He completely pounded me on that first question. And that fourth question, I honestly think that question just came down to whoever got to pick first. Just because I think Around the World in 80 Days was kind of clear in a way the correct answer. So kudos to him on getting that one. But yeah, no. Like I said, just kind of feels like I'm falling upwards, and if that ends up falling upwards into hitting Caleb Coho, I would love that. If it's built, it's fun because it's built, and like that's fun debate. But I think me and Coho need a real, because we had the goof multiverse one. I want to fight him in an actual debate. I want to fight him in an actual cage match, but I want to fight him in an actual debate as well.
Yeah, that's fair. I gotta say, I love Bill Carriola. Straight up, one of my favorite people in the community. I love him on the talk shows. I love him in the trivia. I love it when he's hosting. The dude knows so much about movies, and it's so fun to watch him debate, especially he played for a title. He's the number 1 seed. I kind of want to see him go all the way and get a shot at Cody. But man, if I don't want to see Caleb be Caleb. So I'm very much looking forward to whatever happens because I think it'll be fun no matter what. But Caleb, congrats on the win. I look forward to seeing you in the semifinals. So we'll see you there. And that's going to do it for us. Let's get final thoughts starting with Mark.
Oh, yeah. Now, this one was really close, kind of down to the wire for pretty much every single one, especially the last 3 questions. Like I really didn't know where I was going to go on any of those. And like, if I feel like kind of what we talked about, guys, kind of taking over conversation. I think we kind of got that type of match here today. And also I assume we're going to get a link on the Facebook page about that cage fight for Caleb v. Caleb. We could start a GoFundMe for that, and we just kind of make that happen.
We could probably make that work. Brian, final thoughts from you.
Yeah, this match was everything I hoped it would be. I mean, they're both, like I said, real nice guys, but when they debate, it gets kind of crazy. As far as the next match, either one of those matchups would be fun, but they're also going to give me a headache. I'm not looking forward to that.
That's fair. Well, Bill versus Caleb Coho alone is going to be interesting.
Yes.
We're going to get to see that very soon as well. So thank you to Brian and Mark for judging. Thank you to Ru and Boatman for being here to debate for us. This has been Fanzone Debate. We'll see you guys really soon with another great match. Until then, have a good one.
There we go. Thank you very much. Please come again. We have a lot more groceries.